Shalom, first and foremost, all praise and glories unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Harchak Wadash. That belong to our apostles, the bishops, the elders of the great millstone, and greetings, salutations, blessings, much love unto you, elect, shalom unto you all. You brush squad with a video. Just wanted to go into this idea that came from this movie here. Okay, it was a movie 187. You know, we've all heard of the code. We've all, you know, it's code for murder or something like that. But it's more so about this movie. Okay, and when you get into what this movie's about, it's about Samuel L. Jackson, who was a teacher. You know, something happened to him, violently happened to him at another school on the East Coast. So then he moves to the West Coast and he starts to deal with the same kind of situation, bullying situation from students. Okay. And so, you know, then it plays the movie out, you know, from there. Not going to go into the details of the movie because it's not the movie, the whole movie that really sparked the idea for this video. But let me see here. It was really this actress here in the movie, in this scene. You know, I walked in the room in the house. This is the scene that was going on, particularly this graduation scene. Okay, she was giving a graduation speech. Okay, and what her speech was about was a PYRRHIC victory. Now, let me get that for you. All right, and something she referenced, so this is PYRRHIC, okay? And then, you know, for you that may know, you know, if you know the movie, you know the scene is from the late 90s or whatever. You know the scene at the very end, you know, her speech and all of that. But this was pretty much, speaking of, well, I'm going to get into him a little bit. This is just images of him right here. When you go to a PYRRHIC, statesman, right? Argos, Greece. So it's in the Greek period, okay? Which we know that ties into Hebrew Israelite timeline, biblical timeline. And for you that don't know, this timeline particularly is stated in the book of the Maccabees in the Apocrypha, okay, which is in the 1611 Bible. All right, and then it was taken out later, and that's why you don't see it in all versions of the Bible now. But anyway, the basic overview was, you know, you got decapitated, you can go into him and all of that, but it says PYRRHIC was a Greek king, and she brought this up in the movie, right? Was a Greek king and a statesman of the Hellenistic period. And we know the Hellenistic period, okay, when, matter of fact, let's see if we can get into that a little bit, because this is biblical, right? Clicked on the before Hellenistic period. The classic antiquity, the Hellenistic period, covered the time in Greek history after classical Greece between the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BC and the death of Cleopatra the Seventh in 30 BC, nearly 300 years, which was followed by the ascendancy of the Roman Empire, right? We know our Lord Yahushai lived during the Roman Empire, right? As signified by the Battle of Actium in 31 BC and the Roman conquest of Ptolemaic Egypt the following year in 32 BC, right? 30 BC. It goes backwards. Yeah, so it says, which eliminated the last major Hellenistic kingdom. Its name stems from the ancient Greek word Hellas, right? We see this word and we know there were Hebrew Israelites under the captivity of the Greeks. Okay, in the book of Daniel, it goes into the four beasts, or the image that the Israelites would go into captivity under. The Babylonian, Assyrian, you know, talking about the full 12 tribes. The Babylonian, the southern kingdom went under, and then the Assyrian, even though the Assyrians went took the northern kingdom first, and then the Babylonians, and then it went into the Persians and the Medo-Persian Empire, and then the Greek Empire, which is the time we're talking about now, and then the Roman Empire. And we know that it went, a little season. They came back after the end of the Roman Empire. There was a little season where that deadly wound was healed, and we're now living in the end of the Roman Empire. Okay, but going back into this, during this time is when our people was going to say, let's see what it says anyway. It says, which was gradually recognized as the name of Greece, from which the modern historiographical term Hellenistic was derived. The term Hellenistic is to be distinguished from Hellenic in that the latter refers to Greece itself. Hellenic, right? It's talking about Greece, which the former encompasses all the ancient territories of the period that had come under significant Greek influence. They were conquered by Greece, okay? Because Greece was known for their military, as Rome was known for their military. But their lifestyle was even far worse. When you get into the Maccabees, particularly the first chapter in First Maccabees, it shows you that they all wanted all the regions to be up under them. I mean, it gives a nice little timeline in history in there, but that's not what the point of this video is about, but just tying it in, okay? But particularly the Hellenistic Middle East after the conquest of Alexander the Great, which we know our people are in the Middle East over there. Matter of fact, just let me hit the word Middle East, and it shows you, look, it shows the land of Israel right there. This is the Middle East. Let's see if they'll even show who ruled, you know. And see, and it goes into that whole situation there, okay? The kingdoms, yep. And see, we know this, okay? I'm going to jump down where it says Diadochi, right? It says Hellenistic kingdoms were established throughout West Asia, the Seleucid Empire, kingdom of Pergamon, Northern Africa, Ptolemaic kingdom, and South Asia, Greco-Bactrian, I can't even say the word, Bactrian kingdom, Indo-Greek kingdom, okay? Shows you those. And then we know there were 4 generals that took up that, and then they started dividing it off. And we know that the, I'm trying to think of the other generals' names, but it was the Seleucid, the Pergamon, Ptolemaic, and the Cassander. All right, and then you get all of that, but you get into this, right? This is a part that Edomites are so proud of, but they don't always want to bring this period up, you know, as a negativity. But they still live under this ideology, you know, because it's talking about here prosperity and progress in the arts, literature, theater, architecture. You know, they always keep them columns. They love that. Okay. It's one of the little clues of their architecture. Music, mathematics, philosophy, and science characterized the era. The Hellenistic period saw the rise of new comedy, Alexandrian poetry, translation efforts such as the Septuagint, talking about the Bible, real quick. And this is just how you dig. This is how you seek wisdom with this. Okay, that's what this is for. We got these smartphones and computers in our pockets, and AI and Chat GPT and so on and so forth. Hey man, it takes a few minutes just to dig into. You waiting on the bus or the end of the day, letting your car warm up and hop in, run and get into this. Okay, and for some that's for you that are already established in the belief of the Hebrew Israelism, but that already believes in the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yashad through the Holy Bible. Okay, but for some of you that don't, hey, you got other things to do, to read the Bible and watch videos and so on and so forth, building up your faith and your belief in it. But this is gonna strengthen your faith and belief as you see it tied into modern history. Not to go too far off, but it was saying, talking about the Septuagint, right? It's tying it back into the Bible, and then how we learn things out of that is where we're going with this. Let's see. Basically, it translated the Bible into Greek. To save you the time of that. But I want to get into this Pyrrhianism. Right, is the ancient Greek school of philosophical skepticism, which rejects dogma and advocates the suspension of judgment over the truth of all beliefs. It was founded by, I can't even say it, Sidmus, I don't know, in the 1st century BCE, and said to have been inspired by the teachings of Pyrrho and Timon of Philus in the 4th century BCE. Okay, now let's go back to where PYRRHIC. Okay, this is the guy that we want to get into. Okay, now we're not gonna even go into it. We're just gonna go back to down here. All right, so just giving you how that ties into the Bible. You go into there, it breaks down into the kingdoms, and it's breaking down into the Greek rulership, and that related right into the Roman. That's why they call it Greco-Roman Empire. We're still in the Greco-Roman, or the end of the Roman Empire, or the 10-toe clay, part iron and part clay, part of the image in the book of Daniel. Okay, but when you come down, Pyrrhus, right? He is one of the. That's what I was reading. He was one of the strong. What did it say? He is one of the strongest opponents of early Rome, and had been regarded as one of the greatest generals of antiquity. Okay, and that's key to this, because we're in a fight. Okay, we're in a fight for this truth, so we're fighting spiritually all the time. Okay, this is the condition of the battle. Matter of fact, let me grab that. I didn't actually have that one, but let me grab it. 2 Ezra chapter 7, 56. For while we lived and committed iniquity, we considered not that we should begin to suffer for it after death. Okay, talking about reincarnation, but the things we do in this life, we get judged for at the end of this life before we come back to the earth and serve out our judgment, good or bad, right? It says, and he's going to get into that, but it says, then answered he me and said, this is the condition of the battle which man is born upon earth shall fight. Okay, so we're fighting a battle, and then you got to be careful when you're fighting this battle that you're not trying to obtain PYRRHIC victories, which I'm going to get into that in just a second here, right? That if he be overcome by wickedness, you do more wickedness than you do righteousness. Okay, that your intent misses the mark, or that that you're just overcome by lust of the flesh, lust of the life, pride of life, lust of the eyes, so on and so forth, right? He shall suffer as thou hast said, but if he get the victory, okay, he shall receive the thing that I say. And I think it's a Greek god of victory. It's called Nike. All right, you all know Nike. Now let's get back to I got one more. Okay, a couple of them real quick. 2 Corinthians 10:3. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. This is how you have to keep in mind with the stage that the battle is fought on. Okay, even though you fight battles on earth and in the flesh, that's not where the real war is being fought at. Okay, it may seem like you and this guy down the street, or this guy on the bus, or this guy, in the next car, your boss or whomever, coworker or whatever, might be the guy that, might be the person that that's really opposing you and this and that. But the truth of the matter is, you're really, as Apostle Gabar so eloquently states, you're fighting against yourself. Okay? And it's for good reason, because your spirit wars against the flesh, which is a whole theme, Paul would write about it in the scriptures. But this is what I just quoted, I just read out of Esdras, 2nd Esdras. Ezra was talking about it as well. Okay? That you have to be cautious how you fight this. You don't want to get caught up in a PYRRHIC victory, which says, for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through the Most High to the pulling down of strongholds. Okay? So this is a spiritual thing. We pulling down the spiritual and mental strongholds, okay, around ourselves and around us. Now we not, hey, let me pull your stronghold off, bro. And random man walking down the street minding your own business. Let me pull off. I see you got that crucifix on. Let me pull that stronghold off your mind. That ain't what this is for. You do it by the way you carry yourself and what's really going on the inside of you. Okay? One more, and then I'll jump back to Pyrrhic victory. Okay? Ephesians chapter 6. Yeah, and see, when you get into this chapter, as I'm looking at it, it's talking about that condition of the battle which is inside you. Okay? About how you treat yourself and how you treat others from the inside of you, your intentions from the inside. Okay? But when you get down to, I'll start at verse 10 because he kind of summarizes it, everything in verse 10. It says, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai. Those are the main strength, if you will, the iron, if you will. I hate to use that, but the iron, if you will, of the strength of being spiritually armed. You got to have the proper names of the Lord and His only begotten Son, the Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, right? It says in the power of His might, put on the whole armor of Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. Okay? For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. Do we know what principalities mean? Let's take a quick look.
Principality, a state ruled by a prince.
Sounds good. There's more to it. First, original, principalities. Principality. It says first original. Basically the basics. Okay, what does the Bible mean by principalities? Okay, in the Bible, principality generally refers to spiritual beings or powers, both good and evil, that wield authority and influence. So it's the establishment, the established order of things. So like we can't keep the biblical laws here in America. I'll just say it this way. Okay, so we have to follow those principalities, that the things that are set up in law. Okay, we need driver's licenses to drive around. We need jobs and to pay taxes and all these other things. We can't execute the judgment of the laws. Okay, this is just how we have to live. But that doesn't mean we have to agree with those principalities. All right? That's not what that means. These forces often associated with angels and depicted as, they're always put on a higher level, but we're more so talking about the establishment. You go in the NLT right here, it says evil rulers. Okay? Verse 12 again, Ephesians 6 and 12 in the NLT. For we are not fighting against flesh and blood enemies, but against evil rulers, that was the principalities, right? And authorities of the unseen world. And that's the key to this. Against powers, in the KJV, against the rulers of darkness of this world, right? Against, let me finish the KJV, against spiritual wickedness in high places, right? It says, for we are not fighting against flesh and blood enemies, but against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world, against mighty powers in this dark world. We're actually fighting, the Hebrew Israelites, particularly here at Great Millstone, we're actually fighting against the Illuminati, okay, and all the established things that they're setting up, at the WEF, the WHO, and so on and so forth. Okay, we're fighting those things because they're the ones that are setting up and establishing things in the earth for all mankind to have to, on earth to have to live by. They're setting up an NWO, a New World Order. We're fighting against those things on that level. That's the spiritual wickedness in high places, right? Powers in this dark world and against evil spirits in the heavenly places, against Satan that is working through our flesh. Okay, he has access to us through our flesh. That's why that condition of the battle has to be fought on this spiritual level, because our spirit has to overcome the flesh. Man, what are you going to, about to give a crazy example, but what are you going to do as a man if you living in the flesh and a random woman comes up to you and I don't say random, but you meet somebody and she just, and you enjoy sex in that Epicurean spirit. When you look into Epicureans, lovers of pleasure, you're in that spirit, and then this woman is all about that and sexual desires and making you feel good sexually and pleasuring you and in whatever other way. You're going to lose the spiritual war putting so much attention on that. Not to say you can't have, be involved in those things, but you're going to lose the battle fighting, being in that mind state, because you can't win in that. You have to win in the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, and the fight against the flesh is hard enough. All right, now let me go into this Pyrrhic victory. All right, so why do they call it Pyrrhic victory? The origins of Pyrrhic victory. We define Pyrrhic victory as a victory that is not worth winning because so much is lost to achieve it. Okay, that's another scripture came to mind. All right, Mark 8, straight to the point. I'll even read it in the NLT. Then the KJV, it says, what do you benefit if you gain the whole world but lose your own soul? That's a Pyrrhic victory right there. Okay, is anything worth more than your soul? Right? In the KJV, it says, for what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? Okay? And this is the you got to be cautious not to lose the Pyrrhic victory. Even though you win, oh man, I got the woman I want, I got the job I want, I got the house I want, got the cars. Yeah, but at what cost? Okay? This simple life spent in this captivity. Jake, man, trying to win in this society. Look at all of the famous. Look at Kanye West, man. That's a great example. Look at Kanye West. Okay, he can't even hide how bad his life truly is. Okay, you look at some of these famous people, and they have all the money in the world, and they're creative, and they have a voice that they can influence, millions of people through social media or when they get on the mic and whatever else, stand up in front of crowds, but they can't actually win the condition of the battle over their own soul. Okay? And this is what we have to understand when we're dealing in this world. We have to make sure we're not winning Pyrrhic victories, that we're losing valuable things to gain small victories here and there. Okay, that's how you lose a war. You can be winning the battles, but you still lose the war. And when you get into this guy Pyrrhus, all right, get into this guy. Let's see. Let's see. What is he known for? Okay, it says Pyrrhus, a 3rd century BC king, is primarily known for his military campaign against the rising power of Rome. And we know Rome eventually overcame the Greek Empire, right? Particularly in southern Italy and Sicily. He is also famously associated with the term Pyrrhic victory. Click onto that. Pyrrhic victory. And Wikipedia says, Pyrrhic victory is named after King Pyrrhus of Epirus, whose army suffered irreplaceable casualties in defeating the Romans at the Battle of Heraclea in 280 BC and the Battle of Asculum, in 279 BC during the Pyrrhic War. After the latter battle, let me see, Dionysius, reported by Dionysius, the army separated, and it said Pyrrhus replied to the one that gave him joy of his victory that once other such victory would utterly undo him, for he had lost a great part of those forces he brought with him, and almost all his particular friends and principal commanders. There were no others that there to make recruits, and he found the Confederates in Italy backwards. On the other hand, as for a fountain continually flowing out of the city, the Roman camp was quickly and plentifully filled up with fresh men, not at all abating the courage for the loss they sustained, but even from their very anger gained new force and resolution to go to war, to go on with the war. All right. And this is what it's talking about. Okay. Sometimes you'll be like, well, just one night out at the club. Okay. And then you go out and you dance with a woman and you actually obtain what you went for. You go have a few drinks to get out, to let your hair down, as they say, a little bit, and relax. But now you done ran into this woman, and now she want to do all these things, and you got the Sabbath to be coming in tomorrow night. Now she want to hang out tomorrow night, and because she's going back out of town. And man, it's crazy shit that Then before you know it, you up there trying to hurry up, and she ain't on your timetable of sundown, and she want to do this, and now you done lost. You done did something that you shouldn't have done, or now you got to put the time and energy and rearrange your schedule, spiritual responsibilities, or even physical responsibilities, and now you doing things that you shouldn't have done. Yeah, you gained that woman, so that was a victory, but you're gonna lose time, money, and energy in the long run. So was it really worth it? Okay, you gotta look at the matter of fact, which brings me right into the scriptures I'm thinking. All right, so these PYRRHIC victories, and that's what she was talking about in the movie. That's why I brought the movie up. The for them to actually learn what he was trying to teach in the movie, he had to, take a loss, or they had to take a loss. However you want to see it. If you've seen the movie, or if you're gonna watch the movie, you'll understand. More so. But there's scripture talking about this, right? Let me grab them and then I'll close, not to make it too much more longer. Okay. So, Luke 14, and this is, and that's why the scriptures are educating us, and building us up in how to be, how to discern and how to be judges and rulers, how we can judge over situations. Okay, that we're not making decisions to have PYRRHIC victories. Okay, that we're making the spiritually correct situations versus something for the moment that ain't going, oh, this looks good for right now, but we got to think long term, long range to see how this works. Okay? And it takes experience. You're going to stub your toe before you realize, hey, coming around this corner, tuck your toe in, man. There's going to be those, but you want to make sure that those are just those little learning curves, not really something that's detrimental to your spiritual life in this thing, something that'll pull you or kick you out of this thing. Okay? Which, so if you keep that attention on your spiritual life, so to speak, on what you're doing spiritually, hey, things will tie in and keep you on a path, man. All right? Anyway, Luke 14:26. If any man come to me and hate not his, we know it's not hate, we know it's prefer. Meaning he judges the things of spirituality and his spiritual concern higher than other physical things, right? Hate not his father, the things of his father, and mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters, yea, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. So you have to put these things on the back burner to what's important in the spirit of Yahweh Shemi Al-Shai. Okay? That's what it's saying. And whosoever do not bear his cross, take the low. Who does not take the low? Okay? If you can't take the L, take the, and it may seem like L's and losses, and like, I got another scripture. Philippians 3:7, I'm going to read down a little bit in the NLT. I once thought these things were valuable, but now I consider them worthless because of what Hamashiach has done. Okay? And it's not worthless to love your family, and take care of yourself and your life. No, that's not what we're saying. You got to make decisions not about the things of the flesh, but the things of the spirit over the things in the flesh. So if you have to make a fleshly decision that's going to compromise you in the spirit, hey, you don't do that. you make things according to the spirit that compromise the things of the flesh. That's what it's talking about, right? Verse 8, yes, everything else is worthless when compared with the infinite value of knowing Hamashiach Yahushai, my Lord. For his sake, I have discarded everything else, counting it all garbage, so that I could gain Hamashiach Yahushai and become one with him. I no longer count on my own righteousness through obeying the law. Rather, I become righteous through faith in Hamashiach Yahushai. For the Most High's way of making us right with him depends on faith, right? And he just typed that in for us. All right? And that's the point. You count it loss to gain Yahushai. Okay? So you got to make that spiritual decision, right? Going on, back in Luke 14, in the KJV, it says, verse 28, 27, whosoever do not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. And that's the thing. As bearing your cross, and I'm trying to think of how it says, be not, in Sirach 2, be not, make not haste when thou art changed to a low estate. Okay? Prepare thy soul for temptation, and so on and so forth, in Sirach the 2nd chapter, right? And taking a low. But then it made me think of Micah chapter 2, verse 10. It says, arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest. It will destroy you even with a sore destruction. It will pollute you even with a sore destruction. So you can't be attached to this world too deeply, just enough to get your daily bread and do the things you got to do around this world. You have a good time here and there, okay? But your sole purpose in life, like you look around at our people, their sole purpose is having a good time. It's having fun and having pleasure and so on and so forth. That's why we eat all crazy and just don't, just all taste buds is exploding all day, every day. No balance to it. No balance to our health. Okay, all these things happen all the time. Okay, and we have to be able to be like, okay, I could eat these Now-Laters, or whatever other candies, these lemon heads or whatever, but what is it going to do to me physically? It'll taste good now. I'll win a little bit now, but I'm going to lose overall. And it's not worth me, and what I have to go through to achieve it, for the little flavor I have for a few hours or whatever, a few candies or whatever. All right? But here's a key here, verse 28. For which of you intending to build a tower sitteth not down first and counteth the cost, whether he have sufficient to finish it? Okay, you have to consider that. What is this gonna, if I play this out, what's gonna happen if I play this whole thing out? Where am I gonna land? Where am I gonna end up? How's this gonna, where's the positive and righteous that this is gonna end up? Okay, and it may, I'm always thinking of different movies and songs and different shit, but it made me think of the original White Men Can't Jump, the scene with Rosie Perez telling Woody Harrelson in the movie, he was like, sometimes when you win, you really lose. And sometimes when you lose, you actually win. And sometimes when you win or lose, you actually tie. You end up in the same place. And when I first seen the movie, I was a teenager or whatever. I'm like, I don't understand that shit. But then I did understand it. By the end of the movie, I did understand it generally. But as I got older, and then as I matured and got into this truth, hey, I do get it. I do get it. Okay? There's decisions of things that you believe you're going to win in. You got to, and that's why you got to, the brother quoted yesterday at camp, for where your heart is, there will your treasure be also. And, Matthew the 6th chapter, Yahushua was speaking about it, okay? So the things that you hold dear and important to you, that's where your treasure is at. And that's why this has to be the number one thing in your life. Because you got to make decisions in your whole life according to your spiritual self. All right? So it goes on in Luke 14 to say, count the cost, whether he have sufficient to finish it, or how it was going to end for you. Lest haply after he had laid the foundation is not able to finish, all that behold began to mock him, and saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. Now 31 was my original point. Or what king going to make war against another king sitteth not down first and consulteth whether he be able with 10,000 to meet him that cometh against him with 20,000? Or else, while the other is yet a great way off, he sendeth an ambassage and desireth conditions of peace. You got, oh shit, he coming. Let me go send somebody out there to quell this dude. Let me calm this down. We saw Jacob do it. Okay, Jacob. Yeah, we saw Jacob do it with Esau. Hey, let me send gifts ahead. Let me send this. We've seen that happen a few times. Somebody quelled King David with it. The woman quelled King David with it. We seen what was the other one I was thinking? Dang it. That one popped in my head and I almost forgot the other one. But we've seen it happen throughout the scriptures. Okay? Where you send gifts to ahead to make peace of a situation. All right? Meaning you thought it through what would be the outcome if this happened or if this did not happen. And if pride was in the way. All right? Proverbs 1, and I'll start at verse 2. To know wisdom and instruction, that's what the scriptures give us. It teaches us how to not win these PYRRHIC victories. Okay? It says, to know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, judgment, and equity. Okay? To give subtlety to the simple, to the young man, knowledge and discretion. Sometimes the best answer is just to be quiet and don't say nothing. Sometimes that's just the right answer. It's just to be quiet and don't give any answer. Sometimes, I know. Yeah, we may know, but sometimes this brother, the way he said may know today, or the way he said may be sufficient to get the understanding across. Okay, or it may be, whatever the situation is, okay, you have to be able to see the fullness of the outcome. All right? Before you make the decision, where is this going to lead to? Okay, am this going to be beneficial in the long run, or just something cool for now, or this is good to do, or maybe I should not do? But you have to think these things through and consider these things before, right? That was the point in that. Now I got a couple more and then I'll close. Yeah. This one came to mind, and I'm gonna make a little point to it. It said, lend not unto him that is mightier than thyself, for if thou lendest him, count it but lost. So you got to first understand who is mightier than it. Ain't nobody mightier than me. You can think like that if you want to, but there's always one mightier than you. Okay? So you got to assess yourself honestly and assess those around you honestly, and even those situations that you're in with such people. Okay? And when you, this little set of scriptures is talking about rising up, not up in anger at the presence of an injurious person. Well, am I around an injurious person? Okay. Lest he lie in wait to entrap thee in thy words. Hey man, did I get all hyped up and been out of shape around this guy? This guy loves to argue. This guy, he wants to get into a contentious situation because he want to fight. Or whatever the case may be. I'm just jumping around, but 13, be not surety above thy power. You got to assess yourself. So you have to really understand what level you really on. For if thou be surety, take care to pay it. Okay? And, they're just saying you got to know where you're at. How deep is my wallet? You don't want to get at the bar, 2 bottles for the 2 tables and drinks all around, and buy the bar out, and you ain't looked in your account. Oh shit, rent came out and this came out and that came out. Man, who are these people? Where all these extra people that came from that heard free drinks and they just popped out of nowhere, You got to have all this set up in your mind. And that's what this thing about pure victories are about. You have to count the cost before you get into that war. Because even if you win, do you really lose? All right? And that's the judgment and discernment thing. And this is what we're learning and gaining through this word, through the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, through wisdom. Okay? Discernment definition. Okay? The ability to judge well. In Christian text, perception in the absence of judgment with the view to obtain spiritual guidance and understanding. So if there's anything more to it, should the word discern alone is in here. Acumen, sharpness, wisdom. Okay, this is what we're gaining. Astuteness. Okay. Perceptiveness, enlightenment, refinement, sophistication, subtlety.
Subtlety.
Okay. The quality or state of being subtle. You know, that's a discernment. Let me stay low key, man. I don't have to walk in and be the big alpha in the room. Okay? I can just move about and do my thing, you know. And then when there's a situation where I need to be the alpha in the room, hey, for the betterment of the room, I can make that decision also. Okay? But you got to be able to make these quick discernments in all situations. This is what we're learning through these scriptures, okay? A couple more and then we'll close. Hebrews 5 verse 14, but strong meat. Let me start up. Verse 12. Yep. For the time ye ought to be teachers, ye have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of the Most High, and are become such as have need of milk and not of strong meat. Got to get that foundation set good, right? Or go back to it to get it strong again, right? For everyone that useth milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. But strong meat belongeth to them that are of full age, even those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. Meaning you can see long range. Oh, this never turns out right. It made me think of a scripture, which is Sirach 27 verse 2. Man. Verse 1, many have sinned for a small matter, and he that seeketh for abundance will turn his eyes away. As a nail sticketh fast between joinings of the stones, so do sin stick close between buying and selling. Okay, so you got to be on that edge to watch and discern that good and evil, to see what is this going to lead to. Having this luxurious car, me having this luxurious car is not going to be good. Because if I got the Bentley, I live in Vegas, and if I got the Bentley, where am I? I'm going to be on the strip trying to show it off and turn the music up and trying to fill it with chicks and whatever, And I'm going to be at the car wash constantly shining it up. And then, even if I can pay for, the maintenance and the upkeep and all these other things that go with it, what benefit is it really going to give me by having this? Was it a PYRRHIC victory? Was it something that's going to give me, now I got to watch out to see anybody trying to jack me, steal my rims and break in, and if I got to watch out if somebody hit me, or a pothole or any oil leaks, or it just becomes a headache. Instantly $1,000 for anything, a nail in the tire, $1,000 is damn, So but in some men, they can, that's their lane. They can do that because it ain't gonna throw them off of their focus. But for some other men, you have to be able to discern between yourself. And maybe think of another one. I'll just quote it. Find out what is evil for thy life and give thyself not unto it, to roughly paraphrase it. Okay, you gotta know yourself. You gotta count the cost within yourself. Okay, that's part of the condition of the battle. So you don't fall under the things that pull you away from this faith, this truth. All right, and the last scripture, Malachi chapter 3, to the point 18. Then shall ye return back to the Father and be educated, and this should be drawn from within, right? And discern between righteous and the wicked, the righteous and the wicked, between him that serve the Most High and them that serve him not. So you got to, even the people you're around, you got to discern that. The circle you're in, discern who your teachers are, discern each situation, discern good and evil for yourself in action and in thought and in habit and in practice. Okay? All these things you can lose or you can gain the Pyrrhic victory. So you got to know when to lose and it's beneficial for you to lose, and when to gain when it's beneficial for you to gain, and that gain that has turned to loss. Okay? Which is a Pyrrhic victory. All right, so Lord willing, this was edifying, man. I just seen that end of the scene, and in the spirit, I was like, a couple scriptures just kind of came to mind, and that's how this thing should start building up in you. You know, you see certain things, and try not to make them too deep of a reach anyway, but there may be some edification in it. So Lord willing, this was edifying. Okay, and you just bring it out through the Spirit. So Lord, this was edifying, giving all praise and glories unto Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Rachak Wadash, the belong to our apostles, the bishop, the elders of the great millstone, and greetings, salutation, blessings, much love unto you elect. To the next one, Shalom.